everyone.
Shall I do my own intro?
Sorry.
No worries. That's all right. Hi ladies, my name is James. I'm one of the national makeup artists for Delilah, so thank you for coming out this evening to see me. Love it, it's brave in the weather. So, all clients here? Yeah?
Yeah.
Treatments done here? Excellent. So you've probably already seen the products in salons. Anyone had a chance to try them this week? Well, oh, it's nice tonight then. Excellent. So Delilah, we are primarily a professionally led brand, and you can get us in a couple of retail locations, so Bourton and Mason, Hart Nichols in London, but primarily we are a professional led brand, especially since COVID's come in. The thought of actually going in and trying makeup on counter is a bit so at least you know when you come into obviously your regular spa or salon, you know that hygiene standard is much more impeccable, which is obviously a really, really good thing. So we are all about the glow. That is kind of like if Delilah has a look, that is kind of like what we're all about, yeah? So kind of like really, really youthful, really, really glowing, very quick, very easy, but still luxurious and gorgeous and all that good stuff as well, okay? And who doesn't want to be luxurious and gorgeous? So no, I do. Okay, fabulous. So I always like to have an interactive audience, yeah? So if there's anything specific that you'd like me to cover in the demo, then please feel free to say, and I'll also try and cover as many things that would be relevant for you as possible, yeah? So the lady that I was chatting to here was talking about youth boosting, kind of like making your skin look more flawless and much younger, more glowy, stopping it from settling into places that you don't want it to. These thighs are a nightmare when you're a handsy talker, so I'm sorry if people smack themselves in the face throughout the course of the demo. So does anyone have any particular area like this?
Mine is the same about settling into fine lines and things, because if I do, like now for example, I was up and in work, so I went to the gym and then I was in work at 7 AM, so I've come straight from work, and so my issue would be like long lasting makeup and making sure it's always fresh without having to like re-top it up.
Yeah, love that, excellent.
I'm the same because I seem to still suffer with teenage skin sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah, anything to sort of make it more even and and tired. I'm always tired. So
Under eye bags, yes, definitely that's a really good one to focus on. So yeah, as we're going on, I'll also talk to you about the products, but I'll give you some of my tips as a makeup artist for donkey years. So I was actually at a wedding this morning actually, so sorry if I'm a little bit frazzled. I was doing a big bridal party this morning over the original. So I'll give you kind of like my industry tips as well, because I think that like now there's so much information out there on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and whatever. A lot of the techniques that you see are a complete waste of time. Yeah. So classic will always work. Yeah. Keep it simple, keep it classic, because nobody's got time to sit there for 2 hours in the morning, contouring the nose. For what? I know Christmas weather. Okay, good. So we've got the lovely Helen who has volunteered to be my victim, my model. So thank you for bravely sitting there with makeup on my darling. We really appreciate it. Okay, so we're actually going to start with the eye makeup. So anything else before we get stuck into the...
I have a wedding coming up, obviously a long day, so it's that without having to stand in the bathroom and reapply everything and start again for the evening. So something to take you through without being too much during the day.
And then you can step into the evening. Yeah, that's really, really easy, and that's something that I actually advise if you're going to a wedding. Like when you're a wedding guest, it's not like your normal Saturday night makeup where it's got to last from 8 o'clock in the evening until maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning. It's got to last all day. Yeah, so it's like a good 16-17 hour day basically. Makeup's got to look amazing for. So a really, really simple way of doing that is to put maybe like a different lip colour on for the evening, maybe make the eyes slightly stronger if like you've got the staying at the hotel or something as well. You've got the facilities to do that. But we'll do kind of like a general kind of like beautifying, gorgeous, 10 years younger, flawless, eye bag covering, kind of everything all in one, yeah? That you can kind of like take from that. Okay, good. So, when we do our makeup, what's the first thing that we do? When we start? Skin. Cleanse, yeah? So after we've done all of our skincare, what comes next? Primer, maybe. Any advice on primer? No? We're actually going to start with the eye makeup, yeah? So you always want to start with your eyes, no matter what makeup you're doing. And it's like breaking the habit of a lifetime if obviously you always like at least do your base first. but it really will save like loads and loads of time, especially if you're going to go for a slightly more smokier eye. You're always going to get a little bit of what we call fallout underneath the eye anyway. So obviously you don't want to get your skin looking all flawless and gorgeous, especially if you're concerned about hiding eye bags and then dropping a load of black eyeshadow on top of it when you're doing a smoky eye. Yeah? So we're going to start with the eye makeup. And the first product we're going to use is called Take Cover. And Take Cover is actually a concealer, but it makes a really good eyeshadow base. Does anyone have hooded eyes like I have?
Yes.
Yes.
You can't really see much of the lid when you're looking straight ahead. So that's cool. That's good. So you may find that if you've got more of a hooded eye, your eyeshadow creases a little bit more throughout the course of the day. So at lunchtime, that oil will start breaking through. You're going to get like a bit of a crease in your eyeshadow. So what we want to do is get a really good oil-absorbing base on your lid. So you can use an eyeshadow primer, that's absolutely fine, similar to what you would use on your skin. I actually prefer to use a little bit of concealer. I'm going to pass that around, I don't know. Everyone sanitised their hands at the camera, didn't they?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, good. So using a little bit of concealer instead, usually most of us have like a little bit of pigmentation on our eyelids. Sometimes it can be a little bit dark, sometimes it can be a little bit red. So what we want to do is cancel out all of that tone on the lid, and then our eyeshadow is going to look colour true, make it last longer, give something for the eyeshadow to grab onto, and obviously helps you not having to retouch it throughout the course of the day. Okay. So to put that on, I'm going to use one of our beautiful concealer brushes, this little domed concealer brush. So when you're putting on your eyeshadow base, you want to start from the middle of the eyelid and then blend backwards and forwards up towards the brow. Do you have your eyebrows done, haven't you?
Yes.
Just tone down an extra little bit of high colouring. So just take that all over the lid. Now you don't want like a really thick layer of product, like you see on like a lot of videos on social media. They'll literally paint on like a really thick layer of concealer. That's going to crease in 5 minutes flat. Yeah? You want a nice thin wash of concealer over the lid and show you right from my darling. So if you just have a look at that eye compared to that eye straight away, you can see that it looks brighter, fresher. So if you've only got 2 minutes to do your makeup in the morning, if you're doing school run or whatever, just throw a little bit of concealer on your lid, set it with a bit of neutral eyeshadow or powder, and then instantly you'll have a brighter, more fresher looking eye. So again, just from the middle of the lid, I'm just going to cut that all the way up to the brow. So Take Cover, as I say, is a concealer. So if your skin is a little bit more on the oily side of things, like mine is, it's a really good spot coverer. Yes, that's one of your questions, yeah? So yeah, you want something that's matte. You don't want to use the same concealer under your eyes as you do for concealing blemishes. You need 2 different formulas, because one formula will not do it all, yeah? So if you put, for example, a concealer that's made for concealing blemishes underneath your eye, chances are it's going to be matte, it's going to be oil-free, and if you put that underneath your eyes, it's going to settle in places that you don't want it to. Yeah? You want something that's really hydrating and moisturising underneath the eye. Yeah?
Is it quite good for sensitive eyes?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, all of our products are dermatologist and ophthalmologist tested. So that's basically, I know it's a bit of a kind of like a makeup artist term, but basically what that means is a brand that has dermatologist and ophthalmologist testing, we basically pay when we're developing the product for that extra round of testing. So we would actually test it on a group of women like yourselves, yeah? And then that focus group would basically report back to the dermatologist or the ophthalmologist about any adverse reactions. Yeah. So yeah, that was a very long answer to a yes question. Okay, good. So we're just taking that all over the lid, all the way up to the brow, which will give ourselves a nice, fresh base to work on. Good, and show your eyes for me, my darling. So straight away we've knocked out all that redness on the lid, which is what we want to do. Now, if you're going out in the morning and you don't necessarily want to carry all of your makeup palettes with you, or like your eyeshadow palettes and stuff, I love to choose a little bit of bronzer as an eyeshadow, yeah? Really good one for after the gym. Yes, if you don't want to carry your full makeup bag with you, a little bit of bronzer, obviously you can use it on your cheeks, you can use it to contour, and you can also use it as an eyeshadow. Have you got blue eyes?
Me?
Yeah?
There's blue-green.
Blue-green, yeah, sorry, I can't see properly. So using a bronzer is actually a little bit more interesting than using like your flat boring old brown eyeshadow that you always get in like your palettes. Because the bronze will have a little bit of red pigment in it as well. So amazing for enhancing eyes, especially if your eyes are leaning a bit more towards blue-green, the lighter end of the spectrum. So when we're putting our eyeshadow on, when you're covering a big area, you always want to use a nice fluffy brush like this, yeah? When you're covering a big area, you want to use the flat of the brush, yeah? And what we don't want to do is do like a windscreen wiper motion, especially if your lids are a little bit less elastic than what they used to be, yeah? If your lids are nice and tight, you can basically get away with doing anything to them, but you'll pay for it later on. But when you're covering a large area with the lid, you want to use the flat of the brush, pick up your product, and just close your eye, and then you literally just pack that onto the lid. Yeah, so you see how like we're applying it in more of a pressing motion. We're not doing like a splodge and a drag, yeah? Because what that's going to do, that's going to give you a really uneven application of eyeshadow. And if you do have a slightly more mature eyelid, which maybe has some texture on it, if you pull your eyelid out too much, you're basically putting creases into your eyeshadow, yeah? So we want to pack that colour on, and that will give you a much more flawless, smooth finish. Just pressing that all over the lid, so, and then just open it from the darling. So that just gives us a nice wash of colour over the lid, so just nice and quick. And the same on the other eye. Just press that all over the lid. You're all very quiet. You're all like a glass of Prosecco. One down the drinks. Has anyone got any questions as we're going along? Any questions? No? Happy so far?
My mum used to use her fingers. That's how I was taught.
Yeah, I mean, things are great, especially if you've got something like more of a cream shadow or a shadow stick. Like, I love these. These are amazing actually for weddings. You should pass that around on. So basically, like an eyeshadow stick like that is absolutely fantastic. Rather than carrying like a big, heavy, palette around with you, you can literally just scribble it on your eyelid like a crayon and then just buff it out with your fingertip. So if you're not comfortable with brushes, or you haven't got any brushes in the collection or whatever, then using something like that is absolutely amazing for that. I generally tend to use those as like more of like an eyeshadow base, and then I'll put eyeshadow on top of them as well. So yeah, it's good. Right, and then when we're bringing that through the socket, that's when you want to use the tip of the brush. So for the ladies who've got hooded eyes, put your hands up, let me see where you're at. Don't be shy, I've got hooded eyes as well, come on, hurry up. So you may find that when you're doing your eyeshadow, that you end up chasing the colour a little bit. So like if we do your eyeshadow like this, you'll open your eye and then all that colour just kind of like vanishes back into the socket and you're like, oh, that's 5 minutes of my life I'm never going to get back. So what you want to do instead is if you imagine a line that goes down from the arch of your eyebrow, yeah, so you know the highest point of your eyebrow is, imagine a line that goes through your eye, like that. That is the magic point in your socket, which is going to give your eye a lift, yeah? So what you want to do, rather than trying to do eye makeup with one eye closed like this, do your eye open, and then you'll be able to see exactly where that colour needs to go, yeah? And it just saves you kind of like chasing it around. So just close for me, my darling. So you just pop your brush in like so, and then just open for me. You literally just start to carve out that socket with the eye open, like this, yeah? And that will just ensure that you're getting exactly the right amount of eyeshadow where you need it, yeah? And it's going to push that folded skin back, alright? And show me from the darling. Does anyone struggle with false lashes?
Yes.
Yeah?
I love them.
Me too. Life's not complete without a lash. So it's not on brand, but if you want to show you how to do false lashes as well, like I'm more willing to do that for you. Would you like to include that for you? Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so just to keep it nice and quick and nice and simple, I'm just going to take a little bit of a shimmery eyeshadow. So So we do two different eyeshadow palettes at Delilah. We do one called Damsel, which is your kind of like smokier, kind of like more jewel kind of tones, which is really pretty. Or we do Jezebel, which is kind of like your more traditional kind of like bridal type palette with more like your neutrals in. So we use that quite a lot actually for my bridal work, really pretty colours. I'm just going to use a shader and just want to pass that around my time so that it's kind of look. So you can always just take, using fingers, who mentioned about using fingers earlier, yeah? So you can always just take a little bit of a shimmery eyeshadow, a little bit of highlighter, and then literally just press that just into the centre of the lid, and that will just give you a little bit of extra. That just gives you a little bit of extra shine, so when like you blink, you get that little flash of highlighter coming through, which is quite pretty. So the only thing you need to get your head around is if you're not used to doing your eye makeup first, it is like breaking the habit of a lifetime. So especially if you are going to go for a small, more smoky eye, it always goes through that phase of thinking, oh, it's not going to work. Yeah, I've gone too heavy with it. But then as soon as you've got your base on, your blush on, your lips on, the eyes soften back. Yeah. So you need to just have faith in it and stick with it. Yeah. So just pat that just on top of the lid. And that just gives you a nice little wash of colour onto the lid. So who struggles with liner? So liner, it is one of those things you just need to practice, I'm afraid. There's no kind of like quick fix. What I would say to you is, if you're not confident doing liner, using an angled brush like this will make your job a lot easier. Yeah. So with an angled brush, what I would say is if you're not confident doing liner, start out with an eyeshadow. Yeah? So rather than trying to like use a pencil or use a liquid or gel or whatever, literally get yourself an angled brush like this and practice with one of the darker colours out of an eyeshadow palette. And that will give you a nice kind of like soft, smoky liner rather than like a very hard liquid. And then once you feel more confident with that, you can move on then and go on to kind of like slightly more full-on effect liners. Okay? So just for the purposes of this, I'm going to do a little bit of gel liner. So if anyone has watery eyes or suffers from hay fever or anything like that, then gel liner is amazing. It will give you the effect of a liquid, but with the control of a gel. Yeah? So liquid liner kind of like you can get into a bit of a mess with it. It's quite easy for it to get out of control. With a gel liner, it stays more solid like that. Yeah. So you literally just take a little bit out. I like to put a little bit on the back of my hands so I know how much I've got to work with. A little bit more than that. Now when you're putting your liner on, what do you do with your eyes? Do you stretch it?
No.
Yeah.
Stretch it to the side like this? Yeah? Just try that draw it on? Yeah. So what I suggest you try and do, doing this a bit of a contortionist to do, which goes right on. If you stretch your lid upwards rather than pulling it to the side like that, because when you pull it to the side like that, as soon as you let go, your line goes wobbly. Yeah? So stretch upwards like this, and that just pulls the skin nice and taut. Yeah? And then you can literally just get your brush, go really deep into the roots of the lashes. Now I can't talk while I do this. Yeah? So we'll go
Come on,
I'll stand up on leg. So stretch upwards like so. And then with this kind of brush, you can almost actually just push into the roots of the lashes. So rather than trying to do it like one big long fell swoop, take time with it and do it in almost like little sections, just push it into the roots of the lash. And don't be afraid to actually push it really into the roots of the lash itself. And that gives you a really nice thin soft line. Yeah?
Can I just ask, how are you using the angled brush? Is it horizontal?
Yeah, so you want to use it almost like flat towards the so the thin end of the brush is pressing against. Sorry, I'm talking to you and hide the mouth. So just push into like the skin like that. So generally you want the long end of the brush pointing towards the outside of the eye. Yeah, and that will just make the shape of the eye better. So just short little strokes, almost like pushing it into the roots of the lash. And that just gives you a nice thin liner. And just look down into that corner for me, my darling. This is going to tickle a little bit. And just look straight ahead. And just down this way towards me. And straight ahead again. Okay, cool. So that just gives you a nice thin liner. Just pass those around so you can see the different colours. So it's a nice, quick, easy eye to do. We're going to do 3 different colours in that. We do black, like classic black, we do dark brown if you want something a little bit softer. And we also do like a light brown as well, which actually looks really, really nice if you're a redhead or if you've got very, very fair lashes and you just want something nice and soft next to it. Right, okay. So I'll put some lashes on for you in a little bit, but let's move on to the skin, as that's the main thing that everybody wants to know about. Okay, so who uses the primer? Don't try.
It's not a green primer, I've got Charlotte Tilbury, you know, you spray it on your face. So it's a Charlotte. Because it's just a done.
Yeah, so
It'll take 2 minutes to get ready in the morning, I'm like, done.
Yeah, so
Primer and setter, it's the same product, isn't it? So
Yeah.
for Charlotte's one it is, yeah.
yeah, for sure. So with the slightly, I don't want to say goodbye to summer just yet, but with the cold weather coming, you may feel that you want something a little bit more nourishing on the skin.
Yeah.
I've used that one myself, and it just feels a little bit sticky, I think. Like especially if I'm missing the bride's face or whatever, like all my arm hair kind of like goes like sticky afterwards. So for Ellen's skin, what I'm going to use is our underwear primer. So the difference between the spray primer that he was talking about and one like this is this will be better for smoothing out texture on the skin. So that spray primer, what you use, it's really, really good for giving something for the makeup to grab onto, yeah, and kind of like setting it into place. But if your concern is with texture on the skin, so fine lines, dry patches, makeup fading off in different areas quicker than others, so if you're a little bit more oily through your T-zone, then a primer will basically equalise your skin, yeah, which is really what you want, and give it something to grab onto. So yeah, if you have like open pores, things like that, that spray isn't going to work to fill those in basically and stop your makeup from settling into them. So you want something that's a little bit more liquidy. So I'm just going to pop 2 pumps, yeah, so decent pea-sized amount, yeah. And I absolutely love this primer. So when it comes around the room, just pop a little squidge on the back of one of your hands, massage it in, and then look at your 2 hands side by side, and you'll see how much more glowy, smooth, and flawless the prime pan looks. And that's basically what you want to achieve. Now, you don't have to do this next step if you don't want to, but why you wouldn't, I don't know. But I really love the glow to the skin, especially if you want your skin to look younger and more flawless. It's all about a glow, because obviously as we get older, our skin dulls down a little bit, it dries out, and obviously it kind of like shrinks on itself. So think of like a grape which turns into like a raisin, yeah? So that's basically what happens to our skin as we get older. So if you think about what that grape looks like when it's really plump and full of moisture and it's shiny, yeah, it looks super, super smooth. Whereas when you take all of that moisture out, it turns into a wrinkly little raisin, yeah? That's obviously what we want to avoid, okay? So, in with my primer, because I'm lazy or I like to do things really quickly, so when I'm doing like a bridal party of like 10 bridesmaids or whatever, I want something really quick that I can just throw on. So I like to highlight and prime, yeah? So I always like to pop a little squidge of our Liquid Radiance highlighter. This is the new one. So if you don't treat yourself to anything else tonight, this is the one product that you need to buy. I get through buckets of this. A little squidge on the tree hand, my darling, have a look. So a little bit of liquid highlighter in with your primer, mix those two together, and that turns your primer that beautiful kind of like glossy, champagne-y gold kind of colour. And then we just smooth that all over the skin. So really important with your primer to pay particular attention to any areas that your foundation might gather or collect. So kind of like down here, yeah? That's your nasolabial fold, if you want the technical term for it. Also as well, kind of like here, like in between your brows as well. If you're I frown quite a lot, especially when I'm driving, like I'm on the road quite a lot. So I'm definitely starting to get those 11 starting to come on my forehead. So any areas of like expression, make sure you get your primer really well into those areas. You can bring it up to the kind of crow's feet area here. Yeah, that's going to help stop your concealer from settling into any areas that you don't want it to. Sorry. And then just smooth that out. So if you just move your head from side to side, my darling, you should see that now quite a nice glow on the skin as well. Yeah. So you're going to get a little bit of that glow coming through the foundation, because we I'm sure you've all seen the girls that walk around too much highlighter on, and they look like they've been frosted. Yeah. So
that is a look, though. That is a
it's certainly a look. So if you want to make it to look more lit from within, that's the magic kind of like, effect of one. You're better off putting that layer of highlighter actually under the foundation, and you'll get a little bit of that glow coming through. Of course, you can apply it as you are now, literally that's the very top of makeup. Yeah. And that will give a more intense kind of like glow.
I've got a day on my face.
You should have tried it. You should have
What's
been
the thing about reapplying the makeup is I've got to do it now.
like immediately, it needs to go on now. But then it's useful. I mean, I don't know if that compact's going around still, the eyeshadow compact.
Yeah.
I think it's not mirror in there. Have a look.
Oh no, I'm going to get it. No, I like the bride one.
No, she wants you to
I
put
mean,
your face.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh gosh,
But you just
sorry.
Glowing, radiant, amazing.
Oh my god. Why can't I tell it what it is?
Okay, so let's move on to some foundations. So we do two different foundations at Delilah. We do Time Frame, which is this one here, which is, I would say it's a step up from a tinted moisturiser. Yeah? So if you just want something really quick to throw on in the mornings, if you've generally got quite good skin or you don't like a very, very heavy coverage, then the Time Frame is absolutely brilliant for that. So you can get, I would say, like a medium coverage with it, but if you like a very, very full-on, almost like double wear type coverage, it probably won't give you that level of coverage, if I'm being completely honest. If you do wear double wear or Huda Beauty or something that is much more high coverage, then we also do another foundation called Alibi. And it's called Alibi because it's the perfect cover. Get it? See what we did there? So I'll just pass on these around. Okay. So just give that a really good shake before using it. So even though this is like a full coverage foundation, when you feel it, the consistency of it is like water. Yeah. So if you want the coverage without the heavy kind of like cakey feel that some foundations can give you, then Alibi is amazing for that. Yeah. And then that way I'll pass around the Time Frame. So you'll feel the difference in the Time Frame, which is much richer, much more creamy. Yeah. And much more kind of like hydrated. So with your Time Frame foundation, a look goes a long way with the Alibi. So don't go crazy with the arm. So Ella's got lovely skin, but she's got quite natural high colouring. Yeah. So what we want to do, we want to use a foundation that's a little bit more beige toned, yeah? And that beige tone is going to help to tone down the high colouring of the skin. So with foundation, I always like to do some little dots all over the face, and that way you know you get nice even coverage. I always like to put foundation on with a brush, yeah? So this is our full coverage foundation brush. This is the only foundation brush that I use now. Yeah? So I've tried all different formulas, so whatever, even if you don't use a Delilah foundation, this works for pretty much everything, yeah? And it will give you a much more airbrushed, polished finish. So we'll just pop it on, short little strokes going downwards, like so. And can you see how that slightly more beige tone in the foundation is neutralising that redness? Yeah? So if your skin leans more towards being a bit more on the pinky side, so it's usually people that have like Irish ancestry like I have, got kind of like farmer skin, yeah? What I call that farmer skin, battered from the elements. Then this more beige tone is really, really good just for evening out that skin tone. So with the two formulas of foundation, if you do like to put foundation on with your fingertips, I've said that you can get away with it in time frames because it's a little bit more forgiving. If you're going to use something like Alibi, like a full coverage foundation, always use a brush. Always use a brush. Whenever you use a more full coverage foundation, it needs a brush to go on, so otherwise you use way too much, and it's really cakey, and obviously it makes you look older, which obviously we don't want to do that. Good. So if you have a look at this side of Evelyn's face compared to the other, yeah? See how that's just toned down skin, taken all of that redness out, but it still looks like her skin, rather than looking like a mask, yeah? And that's really what I want with the foundation. How's that feeling skin? Yeah, nice and light. Big believer that the makeup should always feel good even before it looks good, yeah? Because nobody wants to feel like, when you put some foundations on you feel like you can't move your face. So I wash my brushes every night when I get home. When it's yours, when it's your brush, I'd say kind of like once a week. Once a week is a good level. Yeah, if you're very good.
I said if I get my knees once a week.
And how should you best wash the brushes?
So if you want to deep clean them, the best thing to use is Fairy Liquid. Blue antibacterial Fairy Liquid. That's what I've used for donkey jars. And some of my brushes are like 15 years old. So what? I know, don't look that old. It's not Yeah, but in between uses, what you can do is you can use either like a bottle of brush cleaner, or if you get yourself to Boots and just get yourself some surgical spirit. Yeah, pop it in a little spray bottle that you can get from wherever, like supermarket or whatever. Yeah, Poundland, yeah. A little bit of surgical spirit in your brush, in your bottle, and then just give it a clean on either some tissue or like an old flannel. That's the best thing to clean mine in between, like an old towel or a flannel, because the texture gets the brush cleaner faster. With tissue, it can like break up a little bit, get like bits of tissue in your brush, which is obviously never a good thing.
So it's not best to wait till they're a massive mess and then buy some.
Generally not. Okay, so skin's looking nice. And move your head from side to side for my darling. Got that nice glow coming through, yes. Radiant. See how the eyes have softened back. He knows what he's talking about, yes. Okay, cool. So, got nice, even skin. I'm not going to put too much makeup because you've had your eyebrows done so done, so I'm not going to layer on too much product. Because it's not the best when you've got new, fresh skin underneath. Okay, good. So, nice, even skin tone. Good. So now I'm going to do a little bit of concealer. So I'm going to use a different concealer to the takeover that I did at the beginning. So this is one of my favourite products that we do as well. It's called Farewell. So this concealer is, it's more like a stick. Yeah, it's kind of like almost like a crayon. And it's loaded with hyaluronic acid. Have you heard of hyaluronic acid? Yes. Yeah. So it's an amazing moisture magnet in the skin. So because we all tend to be a little bit dehydrated underneath our eye, when you're putting a concealer that's loaded with hyaluronic acid on, it's literally going to flood that area with moisture, which is what you want. So sometimes concealer especially is terrible for settling in lines and making you look older. So how would you all put your concealer on? What kind of shape would you make?
You sort of go underneath a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't use any, so I'm guilty. None.
Just slap it on and hope for the best.
No, I don't have any, so I like to have one foundation.
one job for everything.
Yeah.
So when you concealer on, people are a lot more kind of like clued up now about the right technique, so you would do more of like a triangle kind of shape, which is, I think you said, so yeah, that's absolutely brilliant. That kind of like blanket triangle though doesn't work for everybody. It all depends on what the skin is like around it. So if your concealer does settle in this area, we don't just want to be doing like a blanket kind of like triangle shape. Yeah, you want to be a little bit more precise about where you put in it. So with the concealer, I always like to do a little bit on the inner corner of the eye, just here, just make sure you've got the right concealer. So a little bit on the inner corner of the eye, and we always kind of like want to cover up this kind of like shadow that's in the corner. And then I always like to do downside the nose, like that, yeah? Because this part of your face here, we tend to lose a little bit of volume here as we get older. Yeah, that's why people like a bit of filler, putting that bit it lifts the cheekbone. So if you highlight this area here, it pushes it up and forwards and gives you a bit more of a facelift. And then I always like to do a little bit just on the outer corner of the eye, just there. Yeah? So rather than doing like that full kind of like triangle of product, it's just way too much product to have sitting underneath your eye. If you're 20, you can get away with it, yeah? If you're older than 20, then it's, it will start to crease and like settle into areas that you don't want it to.
So you've had your sunglasses on, but permanently, it's right away.
So I'm just going to go back in with my concealer brush that I used earlier, and then we're just going to blend that down the side of the nose. Like so. Underneath the eye. And then just with what we've got left over on the brush, just look up for me, Mozilla. Just what we've got left over, we're just going to bring that all the way underneath the eye. So it's barely any product, because most of us aren't actually dark in that area of the eye. It's always in the inner corner where you're darkest. And this outer corner can look a little bit pink sometimes underneath your eye, it makes your eye look like it's drooping. So we just want to clean up that shadow under there. And hopefully you can see the difference between that side and that side. Yeah? So less is more with concealer. Yeah? So doing that full-on kind of like block of product underneath the eye, it's way too much product for most people to wear. It looks great on Instagram when you've got like a ring light in front of you, and you're not going to see it 3, 4, 5, 6 hours later. But that will last all day basically. Yeah? So hide the shadow, do what it needs to do, but you're not going to have it creasing and moving around. All right? So I'm just going to pass one of those around so you can have a little feel of it. You can feel how creamy it is. Okay, everything feeling nice on the skin?
Yes,
really good.
James, does it come in different colours or is it a one?
Yes, the different colours, yeah.
Different colours.
Yeah. So you would need honey.
So how do you choose the colour? Do you go a little bit lighter or?
So that's unique to you. So you haven't got any puffiness underneath your eye, so I've actually gone a little bit lighter with the concealer, yeah, because generally we want like a little bit of brightness under the eye. If you've got any puffiness under the eye and you put something that's lighter on it, what happens? Exactly, it pushes it forward, it makes it more puffy, more age, yeah? So if you do have a little bit of puffiness underneath the eye, you're better off going for a concealer that's either very, very close to your foundation colour or even a touch darker, yeah? So that goes against everything you've probably been told, but that is the best way to do it if you want to flatten the area, yeah? So like contouring and highlighting isn't like a one-size-fits-all thing, because obviously everyone's got different eye shape, everyone's got different face shape, yeah? So inner corner of the eye, down the side of the nose, and then a little bit just in the outer corner of the eye, yeah? Just turn your head this way from the just so the legs over this so I can see, yeah? So just down the side of the nose, that pushes that area out a little bit more.
What causes your eye makeup to go black under your eyes during the course of the day?
So generally, it's the oiling skin, especially if you wear mascara on your bottom lashes. As throughout the course of the day, as like you blink, those oils in your skin will start to basically break up the mascara. So a good way of like getting around that is to actually sweep a little bit of like translucent powder underneath your eye, which I'll come on to in a moment. But that basically will just help to absorb the oil, and any little bits that do flake off, they'll just kind of like bounce off the powder, and that will help stop that from happening. Okay, good. So just because I've got this in my hand as well, I'm just going to do a little bit of highlighting through the centre of the face. So a couple of little dots in between the brows, a little bit down the bridge of the nose, and then a little bit on the chin, almost like a shining spotlight onto the face, yeah? So dead quick, dead simple. If your skin's a little bit more on the oily side of things, I probably wouldn't use this formula. I'll probably use the Take Cover that we used at the very beginning, more matte version. But if your skin's a little bit more on the dry side of things, then just use this, just bang it on, dead simple. Yeah. Goes down the centre of the nose. So again, this is kind of like a bit of a generic kind of like tip. It will all depend on how the structure of your personal face. So Ellen's got a beautiful kind of like straight nose, yeah? So nice and easy. If you was a little bit conscious of your nose, if you felt it was a little bit too large, or if you had a bit of a hump that you didn't want to highlight, then you would skip this step, yeah? So don't enhance what you don't want to, yeah? Don't, just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to, yeah? Work with what you've got rather than, what the trend is, if that makes sense.
I have to say that's completely changed her face. You're doing just with the concealer. Yeah. It's totally lifted everything. Yeah.
So it's all about putting dimension into the skin. Like when you put your foundation on, it evens everything out, but it also flattens you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything else that we do from this point now is to push everything, to give it more structure and more definition. And that's really what you need, especially as we get older. When we're younger, we can go for all like the crazy kind of like glam, over the top, like smoky eyes, big lashes, whatever you want, it's fine. As we get older, it's more about definition rather than intensity. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so whenever I'm doing like the Mother of the Bride makeup or a more mature bride, which I do a lot of, it's always like a false lash, a liner. You know what I mean? It's all about definition rather than going for like bright lips or heavy eyeshadow or whatever. It's about everything being really defined and putting back what we lose over time, basically.
Yeah.
So the skin's looking gorge. Yeah? Happy with that so far?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Excellent. Right, so I always like to let the makeup cook for a minute on the skin, yeah? Because as soon as you put like a cream or a liquid product on the skin, it heats up onto the skin. And then basically what it will do, it will set a little bit. Now, if we put powder on this while it's still setting, it will grab onto that powder because there's too much moisture on the surface. Yeah? And you may find this yourself sometimes that when you do makeup in the morning, if you put powder on it straight away, it ends up looking a bit cakey, a bit kind of like blotchy. So what you want to do is let your foundation set properly first. You do all of the wet part of the makeup first, so concealer, foundation. Might put you a little bit of cream blush on actually in a sec. Just because. So let it set. So normally what I tend to do at this point is go ahead and do the brows. Yeah? Do your brows and then you can come back and hide your skin. Yeah? So we always want to be doing something. We don't just want to sit there waiting for it to do its stuff. Okay, good. And doing that, you'll actually use a lot less powder as well. So as we get older, too much powder is a killer. Yeah? Because it's going to take all that moisture out of the skin, make it look quite flat, and obviously collect in places we don't want it to. So in our brow category, we have a beautiful brow pencil, and we also have an awesome brow gel. So this, we do two different colours. We do ash, which is kind of like, I would say, like a dark blonde, yeah, kind of like dark blonde kind of tone. And then we do sable, which is more of a brunette, yeah. But you can build them up to get a level of intensity to suit you, basically. Okay. So does anyone struggle with doing their brows? I just don't. The best makeup advice that I can give you for your brows is to book in for a HD treatment. That is the best thing to do, because once you've had your brows tinted and shaped, all you need to do is literally just fill in the gaps. Yeah? You don't need to work on the like shape and structure in it. So I'm training in HD myself. And I always tell my clients, just get your brows done. If you're a low maintenance kind of girl, you know what I mean, then make it as easy as possible for you. If your brows are done, as soon as you get up in the morning, you're pretty much ready to go, aren't you? Yeah, because it gives so much structure to your face. So if you do want to give your brows any more definition, I always like to push them up a little bit first. So we like to use the brush on the end. And then I really love this pencil because it's got a really fine tip, so you can almost get like little individual hair strokes onto it. HD brows might do one that's like similar to it, but we just So I always like to give a little bit of definition underneath the brow.
And those DJs who always start at the outside, don't you see, people always think that they have to like get their pencil and really heavily put it on there and kind of drive up. They
No, so these
start sort of from the middle to the outer
Yeah.
and then blend in.
Yeah, definitely. So for the underneath, I like to get the underneath in first because basically this line on the bottom here, that's what's going to give you your arch. Yeah, it's going to give you the lift that you need to your brow. When you fill in the top here, that's what gives it the angle and makes it sharper. Yeah. So if you keep this bit at the top quite straight, it's going to give you a straighter looking brow. Does that make sense? Whereas if you kind of like fill in this part here and make it sharper, it will give you more of an angular shape brow. So I like quite an angular shape brow myself and to keep it quite thick. It would depend on what your face shape is and what kind of style you like. Generally, a fluffier, fuller brow is more youthful. Yeah. So if you're around kind of like the 90s, like I was when I was at school, like fashion was, you know, one hair thick. Yeah. It's kind of like the 1920s and like come back round again. So again, sorry? Yeah, 90s. Yeah. There is another unkind name for the brow that kind of like looks a bit like a whale. But yeah, we won't go into that. So hopefully you can see I've just kind of like done two lines, one underneath the brow, kind of like along here, and then one along the top here. Yeah. So get your two lines in place first of all, and that's going to determine the overall size and shape of your brow. Now, I'm not really real big fan of very, very heavy, thick brows, you know, kind of like the stuck-on brow, yeah, like Scout's brows. So generally what I do is just get those two lines in first of all, and then give that a little lift through the brow. And that will just pull a little bit of product through. And then I can literally just go in, and anywhere that looks a bit gappy, you can just fill in. That gives our brow a little bit more shape. Obviously our brow should finish kind of like there, yeah? So the main kind of like, I don't want to say issue, but the main kind of like thing that I see with ladies' eyebrows is if they have overplucked a little bit, their brow kind of like finishes more here, yeah? Now that instantly, especially if you've got more of a hooded eye, like I have, yeah? That will instantly make your eye look older and more hooded, and it actually makes your face look heavier as well, because it just adds weight to that bit there. So you always want your brow to finish there. That really is quite crucial, okay? We're done, so you can have a look at this side compared to the other side. Yeah, see the difference? Yeah, so that just extends it, frames the eye a lot better, and just looks generally.
James, is this another one you can't talk and do at the same time?
Yeah, I can't. And like straight lines, I can't do it. I can't talk and then multitask. Typical man, I can't multitask. Okay, good. Right, so she has a brow.
Is that the gel that you use?
So that was the pencil. And then we go in with the gel afterwards. So it's just like a tiny little mascara wand. Yeah? We just brush through the brow. Smooth that into place. And if you do feel that you make a mistake with your brows, you can literally just get a pointed cotton bud. Yeah? Pointed cotton buds are your best friend with any kind of eye makeup. And you can literally just, if you want to make it thinner, you can literally just go around the edges, sharpen them up. If you need to sharpen your eyeliner as well, pointed cotton buds are amazing for that as well too.
Where do you get
Just boots. These are the HD ones, which I always use because black, so let's coordinate. But yeah, you can just get them from boots. Yeah, ones you can't, that's a bit easier. Okay, good. So let's just do a little bit of cream blusher on you as well. Or lipstick rather. So at Delilah we do some really, really gorgeous lipsticks, some really classic kind of colours. And it's always the last one that I want. Yeah, it's going to be the last one. Oh no, one before the last one. There you go, so you have some of those right if you want some different colours. So just really gorgeous colours. One of the favourites is Hush, which is kind of a beautiful kind of like moody pink that works on everyone. Yeah, really gorgeous bridal colour. That's used a lot. Another one of my favourites is this one, which is called Flirt. Yeah, beautiful kind of like peachy nude. Yeah, looks great on blondes. Just saying. Looks great on brunettes as well. And just to bring out, especially put like a little bit of tan on as well. That's really, really nice. So I use this one and Hush are my two favourite ones that I tend to use quite a lot for bridal work. Really nice. So I would like to pop a little bit just on the back of my hand, just here. Yeah, that's it. Just warm that up with your fingertip. And then just throw it on. That just gives you a really gorgeous, like flush of colour on the cheek. But I actually prefer to use a lipstick rather than an actual cream blusher. Because the pigments are stronger, yeah. So obviously lipstick is made to last on the lips, whereas finding an actual cream blushers just vanish after an hour. So you just kind of like, turns to nothing. Just tap that into the cheek. That's what we used to say when we were on the lips. You can actually have a little flirt. Just keep it still for me, darling. Just do it as a smile.
I love how they've got the logo on the lipstick. It's fabulous.
Just give that really good press on my darling. Okay, so that's what probably going to put on the skin there. So I'm just going to use a little bit of translucent powder. Really like this powder, it's beautiful and silky. And it just vanish as soon as you touch it to the skin. And when you're putting your powder on, you just want to push it into the skin rather than like, buffing it. And that's all locked into place now and won't budge. Yeah? So by leaving it for that minute or two to set properly, pushing the powder into the skin like that, that basically just locks it all into place. Yeah? Now, what else can we do to you? So I'm just going to use a little bit of our colour blush. So do 3 colours. Do a gorgeous pink, which is called Delilah. That one. Do an amazing apricot peach colour, which is called Clementine. That one. Love that one. That one's amazing. You've got a tan. If on very, very fair blonde people as well. That's really gorgeous on that. It's like peaches and cream kind of skin. Or if you're stuck with what blushes go for, go something in the middle, which is dusk. Kind of like a nice pinky brown, yeah? Well, that's good. So we don't want to go for anything too pink on Ellen. So when you're putting your blusher on, there's two different ways that you can do it. Well, there's a few different ways that you can do it. These are the two best ways to do it. You can either start from the high part of the cheekbone here and blend back like that. Or, if you want like a slightly softer blush, you can actually start from your hairline and then work forwards like you would do with the highlighter. Yeah? And what that does, that drapes the colour around the face and makes it look a lot softer. Gorgeous blush. So last little couple of things. Just. So just finish off, I'm just going to use a little bit of our highlighter that we used at the beginning. Just rub that neat. And just pat that onto the high points of the face. A little bit on the bridge of the nose, a little bit on the cheekbone. So, love to use a little bit of lip gloss as well. So we do some really gorgeous lip glosses. This one's my favourite. It's called Jewel. So it's just that really gorgeous, like rose gold kind of colour. That's really well. So looking good. Nice and fresh and glowing. Right, so all we need to do now is just put some lashes on. So,
can I ask you one question?
Yeah, sure.
If you wear glasses, I have heard and read somewhere that you should actually put more on your eyes so that people can see what you're wearing.
yeah, definitely. Again, it depends on the frames that you wear. Like if you wear quite thin frames, it's not quite as important. If you like a strong frame, so like when I wear my glasses, I've got quite thick black frame.
Strong colour as well, so I need to put more on.
Yeah, so you just again, it's about that definition. So you don't need to necessarily go for like a black smoky eye.
No,
yeah?
but as in
But you would need like a little bit more intensity, because otherwise you tend to lose your eyes a little bit behind your glasses. So, so the lash technique that I'm going to show you now, with the false lashes, that would be amazing for you. Yeah. So if you haven't got time or the whatever to do actual
I
makeup.
never managed it. Never.
Let's see. So first thing to do is get yourself a 3/4 set of lashes. Yeah. So don't get yourself a full. Like the full band, because you'll need to cut those down. Yeah. So if you have to cut them down, then obviously go for it. And depending on what shape you want with the lash, will depend on what end you cut it from. These ones are just by eyeball. Yeah. So you can get them from Boots or wherever else. Number 8, light and wispy. Yeah. These are the ones that I always tend to use. You want some really good glue. So one I like is called Duo. Yeah. And this is the one that's got like a little brush on it as well, yeah. And personally, for weddings and stuff, I actually tend to double glue lashes, so I'll do like a layer of glue, and then like glue on the lashes, like glue on glue, and basically they ain't coming off until you're ready, of course, yeah. So really good way of doing it. If obviously you do this yourself, it's a little bit more difficult, you do need to kind of like, practice that a little bit. But all you need to do is just close your eyes for me, my darling. Keep your eyes closed until I pop these lashes on. So I like to do a really thin line of glue on the lid. That's it. And then if you haven't got to cut your lashes down, you want to do a little layer of glue on the lash as well. unless you're like really intelligent.
Or your sister's a beauty therapist, then you're alright.
Exactly. So a little bit of glue on the band of the lash, like so. And then the most important thing is to wait for a minute or two, yeah? Don't try and put the lashes on straight away because they'll literally just slide all over the place and you'll get into a mess and you'll like get glue all over your lid and it's just an absolute mess. So usually when I'm doing like bridal makeup or something, I'll do this probably about halfway through the makeup. Oh God, there's me flash. It's the only set of otherwise I get another one for me. So normally when that glue is dry, I'll go ahead and maybe like do like some blusher or do the lips or whatever, you know, anything's kind of like in a minute or two of time. Has anyone got any questions at all about anything we've gone over? Yeah? Happy with everything? You got them, Madonna? Yeah? We are still here. Okay, so you want to give these a good minute or so, I'd say. Just the purposes of time. Just do a little stretch, and then you can literally just plop these on, so get your middle on first. Yeah? Tuck your end in. Tuck your end in. Then I like to give them a little squeeze into the actual lash. Again, you see it okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Feel free to come over if you want, ladies, if you want to see it.
I really want to see it with one done and not the other quickly. I'm definitely happy.
She can't close her eyes now.
No, that's fine.
So just pop the middle on first, tuck the end in, tuck the end in. And show it before me.
Yeah, really good.
So that is like how to like take makeup like to the next level, yeah. And to make it instant like more glam, still like nice and soft, but don't look like false. Yeah. So they're really good set of lashes to. I mean, obviously other brands are available and stuff, but they're my personal favourite. Because quick, easy. Yeah. And it just like gives that little bit of extra to the eye. So yeah, so she looks gorgeous. Right, ladies, well, I'm going to stop talking now because I've been talking for an hour. But yeah, I hope you found that informative. Obviously, if you've got any questions about the products or anything like that, myself and Tina are here to help you. If you need like your foundation matching up or anything like that, obviously you've got all your price lists and stuff on the table as well. Products are available this evening as well, so if you do want to treat yourself to anything, then please do so. And obviously I'll just float around if you want to ask anything.
Thank you so much.